you guys say anything bad, I'm going to come through that screen and I'm going to choke you.
Welcome. Hello. Thank you for coming and being here with us. We're so excited. We're so excited to see you play at 7:40 at the Plenitude stage, which I think it's...
Where is it?
It's
down there.
It's down there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a good stage.
It's outdoor too. Huh?
Yeah.
It's right by the sea. It's very pleasant.
I think, the performance sees the sea. So that's a cool thing.
That's crazy.
So I was wondering, Sudan Archives, you've done and you do so many things. I was going through, I was thinking of how to introduce you, like violinist, singer, songwriter. Is there a way you prefer?
Not really.
I'm going to go violinist, if I may.
Yeah.
Because I heard that you learnt to play violin by ear.
Yeah, like I started in 4th grade with an orchestra, but when I moved, basically there was no more orchestra at the schools I was going to. So I was like, didn't really learn much yet, just basic training, like how to hold the violin, what it's called, the parts of the violin and stuff like that. And so I just was thinking, like, how am I going to keep, like, I really want to play the violin, but how am I going to, like, learn how to play violin now? And I just, like, my mom told me to play in the choir, just go up to the choir and just play violin with the choir, because it was a really small choir in church. It was like a saxophonist, a pianist, a drummer, and like maybe 6 singers. So she was just like, yeah, just go up there. That's what everyone does. They just go up there and play. And what you do is when you hear the music, you just play what you feel and stuff. So I basically sounded so bad for years. And then I figured it out.
So I'm kind of interested in this because my daughter learned violin for 2 years, and it was really like sort of basic. She spent sort of 2 years playing very like basic notes and didn't really enjoy it. Like,
Really?
I'm sort of wondering, do you think like we've got the violin a bit wrong in the way we sort of deal with it?
Probably. Because like I remember my first approach, the first thing I saw, I was like, I lived in Wyoming, Ohio. So it's just like a random little town. It's actually a Jewish community. I saw a fiddle group basically came to my school, and that's what made me want to play the violin. They basically like introduced us to like Irish jig music and a lot of music like that. And then they weren't sitting down, they were like dancing and jumping around and doing a little dance and playing. And then I think because of like the excitement of that and how it looked so fun, that made me want to play violin. I feel like if you're a kid and you're learning violin, you need to be moving. Like, you shouldn't be sitting down. It shouldn't feel so, like, serious. It should feel more, like, wild and free, especially when you're young. Like, they should just give violins to kids and be like, let's run around and just play. Like, it should be more interactive in that way.
It totally should, because when I like see your music videos and stuff and seeing you play with the actual violin, it's like the first time I see someone like enjoy the violin in that way, because I only see people play the violin in an orchestra, very formal, very serious, which is like very respectable and very difficult as well. But your way, it feels like the violin can be that as well. Like, no one says it's only supposed to be like a formal thing. It can be that as well, and you can make it sound the way you do, and I think that's so special, because I bet a lot of kids now that discovered you are like, oh, maybe I can learn to play the violin, and it doesn't have to be like me sitting down and being super like focused and music training in a very serious way, and I think that's really cool.
Unless that's your thing, unless you're just like a serious kid and you want to sit down. Like,
then you have a lot of like other inspiration you can take from, because that already exists. But it's cool that you also exist for kids who maybe are not really into that.
Because I was reading you were a punk and then you were a raver, right?
I guess so, yeah. I didn't stand up at the Pledge of Allegiance. I sat at lunch alone. So I was a little weird.
Well, what happens if you don't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you have to, or like what's...
I guess you don't have to, because they would just look at me weird and stuff. Sometimes they'd be like, "Oh, stand up," and I would just be like, "Okay." I would just stand up and I wouldn't say anything. I don't know. I went to so many different schools though, so I was kind of tired of school at that point. And everybody knew everybody, and they were like, "I've known you since 4th grade," and I was just like, "I already have enough credits. Can I just get out of here?" And then I graduated a little bit earlier because I went to a high school that was kind of like a little more prestigious than the other ones. And then I went to another high school. So since I had all these like college prep classes or something, it worked out where I didn't really need to go anymore,
I was wondering if you were sort of attracted by the energy of those two scenes, like from sort of punk and raving.
I don't know. I think it just influenced I don't know. I just feel like, I kind of was like raised in like a kind of tight, loving family. We had curfew at a certain time, and, we would go to church 3 times a week. I really needed to be in like this like experimental kind of phase in my life where I just like go and just be wild and free and but I was inspired by it, I guess, because of the use of technology in those scenes. Like, it's not just like your normal like cover band and whatever that you would think a violin would fit into. Like when I saw that you could basically like be by yourself or be a DJ or be by yourself and have a drum machine and kind of be a one-woman band. And when I saw that you could use technology to just kind of like express yourself musically in that way, that kind of blew my mind. So, I thought, why not combine that with like a natural instrument like a violin? And then that's how I got really into ethnomusicology, because I discovered that there's like people out there that are like really into like dying string instruments. And then on top of that, I'm really into like technology. So my whole thing is about combining the two.
So when was Sudan Archives born? In that moment, you were like,
I feel like in that moment, at first I used to go by Sudan Moon. So I went by Sudan Archives when I moved to LA. And then probably around the time I got signed to Stone's Throw Records, I think I changed my name to Sudan Archives. And that's when I realized, okay, this whole project is about like electronic music mixed with like natural organic instruments. And that's like literally like my sound now. And I feel like when you hear my music, you definitely can tell that it's like a Sudan Archives sound, because you'll hear like really dope bass and violins and like really cool sounds it's like a cool mixture of stuff.
So the thing that was always in your name, even if you changed it, maybe was Sudan. Like you were for sure like that you wanted to represent maybe some of your cultural heritage, or that just was something that you came up with that maybe...
It was literally like a nickname. Because basically, I was really obsessed with like African culture in general. But yeah, I didn't know where I was from in Africa. But I just always thought it was interesting that like African Americans never really think about Africa in a way of like, oh, I want to go vacation there. Or some of us, we want to know where we're from and stuff. But, your first out of the country trip is usually like Paris or something. You don't think, I want to go like to Ghana or to here. So because of my interest in like African tribes and things like that when I was young, I think my mom just like was like, let's call you Sudan because of that.
But so it was your mom, the one who came up with it. Okay.
But it's really weird because after I took the name and started making music and stuff, one day I just decided to look up the history of Sudan, specifically the musical history. And it's basically like one of the most prominent violin cultures in Africa. And they play violin. Some parts in Africa, they play a 1-string violin, which is more of like a ancient violin. It's like made out of lizard skin and horsehair and stuff, like coconut shells. But in Sudan, they actually play violin. So when I Googled the violin players in Sudan, it kind of like really inspired me, because I don't think I ever saw a bunch of Black people playing violin, and specifically in the way that they're playing it. It's like very spiritual, and like the arrangements kind of like caught my attention too, because it wasn't just violin music. It was singing, violin, singing, and violin, and singing and violin. And then when I saw the way that you could sing and incorporate the violin, that's when I was like, oh, my arrangements of music need to be more like this, not just the pretty violin in the back. It needs to be like a call and response.
When you moved to LA, you went to Low End Theory, which is kind of a legendary night, for all the music that's come out of it. What was it like?
Well, you would go in there and there would be a bunch of like there's a couple of guys that run Low End Theory, so they're the residents or whatever. So when you go in there, it's like a long line. It's like really tiny. It's really sweaty, sometimes smelly. And you go in there and you see maybe like Gaslight Killer or someone DJing or doing his set. You see like people like Daedalus. Yeah, and it's funny because I'm dating one of the people that like started the Low End Theory. No Can Do would be there rapping, and I'd always say hi to him. I would always say hi to him, and I was creepy. But
I don't believe that.
I was just saying hi because we was the only black people there, and that's just what you do. You be like, "What up? What up?" But yeah. So I remember one of the first times I went there, I saw the internet and Breezy Lovejoy. He goes by Anderson .Paak now, but yeah. Yeah, I played a show there actually once too, and that was really fun because like I don't know why it was fun. I think I always wanted to play, but then I kind of like forgot about it. So then when they asked me, I was like, oh yeah, this is something I've always wanted to do. And everybody was just dancing, and then Low End is always just banging. And that's why I like going there the most, because it's just, the music is just super loud.
I mean,
I forgot to say earlier that because we're on Twitch, you can comment in the chat, and someone says, Sudan Archives, Sally Crunette says, Sudan Archives sounding bad, unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I be sounding bad. Oh my God, I'm afraid to read these comments. One time I was like performing and my violin was out of tune, and then I saw a comment, and then someone was like, when is she going to learn how to play violin?
No!
That's lovely.
And I was just like, man, fuck you. That's how I felt. I wanted to comment back, but I was like, no, I cannot be a part of this. I am just going to act like I never saw this. But yeah, like, that's what art is about. Sometimes it just doesn't sound bad. I mean, sometimes it doesn't sound good, you know? It's not supposed to sound good all the time.
All the time, yeah. It's the joy of art, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I agree, because I don't want someone saying bad to me either.
If you guys say anything bad, I'm going to come through that screen and I'm going to choke you. And then when I choke you, I'm going to force feed you fruit. And then I'm going to choke you again. And then I'm going to pour water all over you.
Mara, I'm suddenly worried about our questions.
A lot of people are going to comment bad things, because now you made it sound good. I wanted to ask you about you were on tour with Caroline Polachek, who is also playing here. How was it?
Oh, yeah, but is she
really
playing tomorrow?
Huh?
She's playing tomorrow, yeah.
You're not here anymore?
No.
Oh. But I really like your pairing. Like, it really makes sense.
Her songs are stuck in my head now. Desire. I wanna get next to you.
That's the best Caroline Polachek cover I've ever heard.
It's stuck in my head because I saw her every day, and now I'm just like a hardcore fan, and I just cracked out on her.
Your second album, Natural Brown Prom Queen, you recorded it at your home studio in the pandemic, right?
Oh, yeah.
How was that?
It was perfect. I don't want to be in studio rooms with people. I don't like that. I don't like fancy, cold studio rooms. I don't like it. I don't like fancy mics. I like this mic.
This one, just when it's yours.
Yeah.
So doing it like a little bit like DIY, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I like, my basement looks like a garden. Okay. When you walk in, it's fake grass on the floor. There's fake vines hanging from the walls. My dog Junko's down there, but he's probably pissed. Oh, she's pissed because she doesn't like the basement, but I make her go down there with me.
But it looks like a garden.
And my snake's down there.
Oh, I don't like snakes.
What's their name?
Goldie, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But one thing about the album was, like, for me, it sounded like really expansive. Like it was just expanding in every kind of direction. And I wondered if that was like a reaction to being, like, you know, locked in and being pandemic and we couldn't go outside. That it was like, right, I'm going to make something so expansive?
I don't know. I just was really comfortable and I didn't have to go nowhere. And then like my manager was like, I'm gonna help you make it. And then I had people in mind that should do it. And I was like, to help. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And I don't want to know who they are. If you have any ideas, you can send it to me. Just number it and I'll pick the numbers. I don't want to deal with any of that. I don't want to be around any of that. I just want to do my thing. And that's why it's so big, because I was able to collaborate in a way that even if the people were assholes, I wouldn't know.
That sounds like an amazing plan, like amazing work ethic. Everything works if you don't talk to people.
Exactly, less talking to people.
Now you have two albums, you're on tour, you're doing all the things, but I was wondering, what to get here, you must have had a journey, and what are the challenges that you faced and had to overcome to be here today and having all these fans and having everyone supporting you?
Well, just as much as I love technology, it's a huge hurdle that as an artist, especially a musician, like in the artist world, I guess, you have to know to a degree, like a little bit about technology. Like you have to know how to maybe record yourself, you know, and to post online your shows and stuff. So just as like fun and exciting I think that technology is, and how I want it to be incorporated into my world, it's literally a hurdle to this day. Like it's always something going wrong. Like for example, I have a wireless headset mic and a wireless instrument cable. So basically I'm not a slave to the stage. Like I can move around and I don't have anything tying me down. Like I don't have to be like, I have to stay in this spot. But it's like always something going on with the frequencies of wireless systems. Depending on what city you're in, you have to reset the frequencies every day and you have to calibrate it. So then it doesn't like, you know, this is a radio station. So if the wireless frequency was right by here, you wouldn't get a good connection and stuff. So it's like the more things get bigger and expansive with technology and cooler, the more things you have to do to take care of it. And I just think that's been one of the biggest hurdles. Yeah.
But do you like those occasional mistakes that happen?
I want to say that I like it, but I don't really care. Like, I'm not about to let that stress me out. Like, because I'm over here thinking about today. Like, today, it's an outdoor festival. Is my wireless mic gonna work here? Is it gonna be weird? Blah, blah, blah. But, you know, we have like a backup wired mic and we have this. So there's different plans in case it doesn't go right. But, yeah.
No, I think that the people are always like wanting to see the artist and see you, and they will be happy. Like they're not gonna be like, boo, your wireless mic doesn't work for this amount of these minutes. Like it's gonna be like, oh, okay, then change it or do whatever. Like I guess the important thing is that there's like the crowd that loves and will support you, and no one, like I feel like you have to remind that sometimes to yourself and your work in all these scenarios. Like people are not gonna, like, this is like not operating a heart in an office. Nobody's gonna die. Everything's gonna be okay, and everybody's gonna have fun.
Yeah.
Tuka, which we're gonna have to end because you've got to go and
yes, I have to go
get ready.
Do stuff.
But what can we expect? You're playing 740 Plenitude, which in a very useless gesture I'm going to say is over there. Yeah, what can we expect?
Lit shit. Lit shit.
Then we're gonna be there. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Live from Primavera Sound, proudly presented by
MetaHype and Cupra.